Hello, booktube. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. My name is Marilyn, also called Maya, and today I want to present to you my very exciting, substantial Nonfiction November TBR. Nonfiction November, and I didn't mention this in my preview, which I'll have down in the show notes, was started by Olive from a book Olive 5 years ago. And she's trying to get us to read more nonfiction. I've always loved nonfiction, so it's not really tough for me to read nonfiction. And I think I have one of the of all the years that I've been doing booktube, and it's going to be 4, this is to me the most exciting reads that I've collected. Now, Olive has 4 prompts, which I'm not going to do, but I will tell you what they are. They're fraud, web, capital, and display. And she always has 4 words for prompts that you can use any way you want, or not use them like I'm not going to use them, because I didn't feel that it really fit the books that I'm presenting today. And you can read all nonfiction, but you're participating, Olive says, if you only read 1 nonfiction book this month. And I have all nonfiction. Of course, I'm going to read, and I am reading fiction as well. But let me start with a book that I picked up from my library. Was surprised that the library had that many copies. Just shows you how popular he was. And I'm talking about Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Mathew Perry. Now, we lost Mathew Perry last week, and it's a terrible tragedy in so many ways, because he was a very talented and funny and wonderful person, as we're finding out in real life. And he said in an interview that I read about that he doesn't want to be known only as a member of the cast of Friends, where he played Chandler Bing, but he wanted to be known as someone who helped others who had the same struggles that he had. And before I talk about the book, I just want to say, may he rest in peace, and may his memory be a blessing. He was the same age as my oldest daughter. So he was born the same year, in 1969. So he's 54. He was 54 when he passed away. Now, the first sentence in the book says, "Hi, my name is Mathew, although you may know me by another name. My friends call me Maddie, and I should be dead." And that's so sad, because a year later he was dead. He is dead. And I heard wonderful things about this book. And in the back, he says, "That's me eating a rock. I gave them up in my mid-30s. And there's a picture of him as a young kid eating a rock. And that shows you his humor and what we lost. So I wasn't really into Friends as much as many. I was older when it first came out. And I'm hearing that a lot of the millennials and others are watching Friends because it's a timeless show. And there's very few timeless shows. I can only think of a couple. One being I Love Lucy, which I watched in the original, which tells you how old I am. But if you just look at this picture and this photo of him, you can just see the intelligence in his eyes. And this is supposed to be also, as well as the big terrible thing, of course, was his drug addiction and his health challenges because of that. And it says it's a raw, unflinching memoir that took courage to write. Addiction. Mathew Perry has a lot of courage. He takes us through his addiction, his illness, and his paralyzing loneliness. Ultimately, this book is filled with hope for the future, which is sad right there. If you want to know who Matthew Perry is, stay away from the rags and read this. And then there's also, there's a preface by Lisa Kudrow, who I think played Phoebe. And I have watched a lot of episodes. I didn't, do the whole watching every single episode, but I'm sure a lot of people are doing this in his honor. And I think that the more we talk about mental illness, addiction, the better we can help people. And, I know that it's said that he went to I don't know how many rehab centers and, we all thought he was cured. He might have been. We don't know how he died. But his body took a big beating from all the and I don't know the specifics because I haven't read it yet, but as his character, Chandler Bing, he was funny. And I found out just by looking at the first few pages or even the blurb that he was a tennis player, a professional tennis player in Canada. So we've lost a wonderful human being who tried to help people who had this addiction, as well as being so talented and funny, and one of our friends. So I'm looking forward to reading this. I get chills just when I think of it, that my daughter's the same age and he just died way, way too young. Okay, so the second book that I'm going to show you is a book that I've heard about on booktube for a long time, and also on other sites saying how wonderful this book is. And I started reading it last night. So what is the book called? First, I should tell you that this is not a normal copy. It has the rough edges like it's a galley, and it says that it was bought by, it's also a National Book Award winner. Anyway, it's called Just Kids by Patti Smith. And even though Patti Smith is only a few years older than me now, and we both she was from Philadelphia, I think, or a suburb of Philadelphia, but she went to New York when she was very young. So she talks about a New York that I lived in. And I think this is part of the problem that I'm having with the book so far. Not that it isn't a wonderful written book. So it's supposedly a book about her relationship with a photographer that she met. And his name is Robert Mapplethorpe. And I really, to be honest, I never heard of him, except in passing. I did hear of Patti Smith because she was also a singer. She's a poet. She's an artist, very talented. And so far, it's not only a story about her relationship with Robert, but it's also a time capsule about New York around the time of the 60s. And what did I write? Well, it's very poetic so far, and it's not, I wouldn't call it a fast read because the sentences are so beautiful. She's a writer as well. And so I said it was a time capsule of New York City in the 60s, where I was there. To be honest, it brought back my tumultuous past in a different way. She comes to New York, and I'm just going to tell you the beginning of the book. She got pregnant at 19 and gave away her baby because in years before, even in my time, like I'm maybe 3-4 years younger than her. So she says in the book that marriage and pregnancy were together. There was no other way. And after she got pregnant, she went away and had her baby and gave it up for adoption. And then she couldn't find a job. It was the economy was very bad where she lived, and she worked in a series of factories. And then she took a Greyhound to New York City. And she talks about the time of the 60s in New York City so far, and how she meets Robert, how she was homeless for a while, and what that scene was in New York. Very different from the scene that I'm used to, but yet so familiar because I was there. So I saw it. I didn't live the life that she led. And in some ways I feel maybe a little envious because I felt I was artistic, not in the way that she was. But I wanted to sing and dance, and I was stuck in my culture where my father, it was get married, or I'll kill you, basically. So I had my baby, and of course I got married first, and then I had children. But I wanted to get away from my family. She, I think, had a more stable family than I did, yet she needed to get away because of the circumstances of getting pregnant at that time and not being able to find a job and feeling that she couldn't take care of a baby. While I had a child at 18, I was married at 16, and I always felt I could take care of a baby. But I had to give up that part of my life that was the artistic part for at least a while. But anyway, so this is going to be a tough read for me, but the writing is gorgeous. She's a wonderful writer, and one part in the beginning, she says that her father sent her to college. She was in college, but she was 19. So she was in college trying to be a teacher because her father said she was too unattractive to find a husband. So I thought, how honest is that, and I felt that feeling too. And, she ended up being famous. So I'm looking forward to reading this. It's going to take me a while, but if you've read Just Kids by Patti Smith, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. I really would appreciate that. All right, so are we going to do another memoir? Yes, we are, but it's a different kind of memoir. And this, I told Britta Bowler of BookTube fame that I was going to read this for Nonfiction November, and she highly recommended it to me. And it's called Unwell Women, Misdiagnosis and Myth in a Man-Made World. It's kind of a memoir in some ways, and the author, who is, should have her name, oh yeah. I really hate when it's like red or yellow and I can't read. It's hard to read the author, but her name is Elinor Cleghorn, and she suffered from a misdiagnosed disease called lupus, which is a really serious disease, and she was misdiagnosed. But this book is not only about her experience. In fact, I found out that her experience is only in the last chapter where it says autoimmune. So it has chapters. It's really nonfiction, but it's also a memoir. And I thought, I wanted it to be, I haven't finished it, I skimmed through it. So please take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because it could be more than what I'm thinking it is. But she has part 1, Ancient Greece to the 19th century, part 2, late 19th century, and how women are treated basically 1945 to present. So it's sort of like a history of misdiagnosis. And I was I'm going to read it, of course, and I started reading it, but I was hoping it would be more of a modern book about how women are misdiagnosed, and of course she does go into that in the end, but in the present time, because I've been watching a lot of women who unfortunately get a cancer diagnosis too late. They're misdiagnosed. They're too young. It's something else. They don't, the doctors don't really care to take you seriously if you're a woman. And I've had this. I suffered from fibromyalgia before it was even had a name. They used to call it fibrositis. They didn't know what it was. They still don't know what it is. But I was misdiagnosed for years and years and years until finally I got bone-on-bone arthritis, which showed up in one of the x-rays. But I suffered with joint pain most of my life. And they still don't know what fibromyalgia is. And lupus, I don't know if it's more serious than fibromyalgia, I think. But the fact that, you as a woman are not taken seriously, and this book is going to show you the past and how this is not a new thing. And I'm very interested in the subject also because of how women of color are not treated well by the medical community, and they have different problems, like when they give birth, that are just not taken seriously. Maybe it's racism, maybe it's poverty, but even famous people like the tennis players. The tennis player, and her name escapes me, but she's a famous tennis player, almost died during childbirth. Probably during this video, I will think about it after all. Age, but they're two sisters, and I will think of it. I will remember it. But anyway, I'm looking forward to reading this book. And so that's the end of my memoirs. So then I have my sort of nonfiction self-help. And this is the first book that I was actually personally recommended by a person I know in real life. And she's my daughter's husband's, my son-in-law's daughter, but not my daughter's child, if that makes sense. And she recommended The Untethered Soul, The Journey Beyond Yourself. And Deepak Chopra said, read this book carefully and you will get more than a glimpse of eternity. So you kind of get what it's about. I was really kind of confused because I thought it was more of a woo-woo kind of book. And but he had a lot of good points. It's a New York Times bestseller. I mean, I don't know what that means. Did they say it was a New York Times bestseller, or it was self-help transformation? And somebody said in lucid, unadorned prose, Michael Singer delivers the essence of the great spiritual teachings of the ages. And it's an instructive meditation on the binds of the human condition and how each and every knot can be gracefully untied so that our souls may fly. So it's spiritual. I have to say that I did skim through it, and in the end it does get religious in a way that I didn't like, but because they're talking about every single spiritual, religion, which for me is not really gonna work. But in the beginning of the book, he talks about how we always are constantly talking to ourselves, and who's listening? Who are we really? When we say everything that happens to us, we have like a inner dialogue going on. But who is the person that is in the inner dialogue? Is it ourselves? It's part of ourselves, but who are we really talking to? And that was interesting because I talk to myself. I have an inner dialogue, but sometimes we can overthink and we're not still. So I think if I do read this book all the way through, I think I will help me with my overthinking. I'm not good at meditation. Some people aren't, but I'm very good at deep breathing, and that's been helping my sleep lately. Anyway, so that's The Untethered Soul, The Journey Beyond Yourself by Michael A. Singer. Let me know if you've read it and what you've got out of it. The next self-help book, I have a very good reviews on it by a family member who read it, and she gave me some reviews, and it's called Not Drinking Tonight, A Guide to Creating a Sober Life You Love. And she said almost the same thing as the blurb says, and this is by Amanda E. White. I don't know what LPC is, licensed practical counselor, psychological counselor. So what they say is that Not Drinking Tonight is so much more than a book about alcohol. It's also a look into trauma, diet culture, and other societal conditionings through the lens of a relatable, thoughtful, and kind therapist. The book is the best kind of therapy, and Jamie Varon, author of Radically Content, wrote that. Now, the person that gave me the review, my family member, said that that for her, this book is not only about drinking, but about mental issues that she knew that she suffered from. And that she got out of the book that drinking wasn't only a symptom of her social and generalized anxiety, but unlike other books that she put down, this book addressed the issue holistically. And it also has something to do about how to reparent yourself, how to get through trauma. And it seems like something, I don't have a drinking issue, but I would like to read about it because I do suffer from anxiety. And I know that some of my other habits, like eating too much in the past and other bad habits that I had, were due also to the mental anxiety that I felt. Okay, so what's the last book? Okay, don't judge me. I wanted to read a Mary Roach book, a science book. I found out she's not a scientist though. She's a science writer, and that's different. And all my library had was Bonk. I'll be honest with you, I never heard that expression before, so I just picked it up. And then I looked and it says it's the curious coupling of science and sex. Okay, so it's the study of sexual physiology, what happens and why, and how to make it happen better. Has been a paying career of diverting sidelines for scientists as far-ranging as Leonardo da Vinci and James Watson. The research has taken place behind the closed doors of labs, brothels, MRI centers, pig farms, and stuff I don't want to say on camera. Okay, what can I say? I'm old-fashioned. I might take a look at this. I didn't want to read Stiff, and my library didn't have it, but she's supposed to be very humorous. And somebody said, I would read Mary Roach on the history of Quonset huts. Funny they should say that. They should say that. And who said that? A.J. Jacobs, author of The Year of Living Biblically. We have a lot of Quonset huts in Hawaii, still from World War II, so that's funny. So there is an interesting, I hope she does write a book about Quonset huts because it does have an interesting history. Did I read everything? Okay, before I end this video, I just want to tell you or ask you to please subscribe to my channel because I'm losing people. Every day I lose someone and I haven't gained anyone in a month. So, a viewer. And I know I've been away and everything, but please like this video. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and push the notification button, because I plan to make more shorts, more videos in the coming days, with so many events that I'm interested in this month. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching to the end if you have. And I wish you, as always, good health, love, whatever your heart desires, and of course, aloha.